It's another lovely Wednesday, January 18th to be exact. This is the Chasing Points podcast, where each week we give you your weekly honest dive into the sports world. I, myself, and Brandon, normally my co-host Sam is here, but we have our good friend Harrison filling in again, which we love to have Harrison on the show, and now we can get some of his picks, and potentially I can torture him on Xbox with these picks as we go forward. So, Harrison, welcome back. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Happy Wednesday.
Yes.
Happy to be back on. Great Wednesday here. Just happy to be back on. Always a pleasure.
Yes. The reason we are laughing is because we just had something happen in pre-production, which is absolutely hilarious, but that is just between Harrison and myself. So we'll just jump right into this. This past weekend was the wild card round. We are now heading into the divisional round with some interesting matchups, but there's no shortage of news when it comes to the NFL this time of year. And we're just going to jump right into some of the things that have happened based off of what happened this past week. So there's a lot of firings that have happened. But the first thing, which I'm sure if you probably watch any sports outlet on Tuesday, even today, they are talking about Tom Brady, as the Buccaneers got absolutely destroyed by the Cowboys. I apologize to Cowboys fans because I did not choose you guys. But I should have chose you guys because the Buccaneers are and were this way the whole entire year. But I just went off the record basically that Tom Brady had never lost to the Cowboys. And here we are. Well, outside of that, the way that Tom waved as he tipped his hat while running off the field, I know he always loves hugs and kisses his family if they're available or at the actual stadium, which he did so. But his post-game presser, kind of a little cryptic, a lot of questions asked if he was going to return or not. So my question right off the rip, Harrison, is this Tom Brady's last game? And if not, where does he go?
No, not his last game. I just don't trust him. Even if he says he's retiring, I still think he'd come back. I mean, got a new girlfriend. Rejuvenate. Why would he retire? Why not just keep going? I don't see him retiring. Where he plays, I don't know. Couldn't answer that one. The Bucs obviously flamed out. They haven't been very good all season. So not much to add on that. I just don't think it's his last game for.
I want to say that I agree with you because of what he just did this past year of retiring and then coming out of retirement to play. I know the reasoning behind his retirement, as he stated on his, or friends close to him stated that he didn't want the goodbye tour. That's why he did it during the offseason, but then he just couldn't give it up. Obviously, throughout the whirlwind that he had of this year of splitting with his former wife, now the mother of his children, now having a new girlfriend, as you mentioned. Thomas had a roller coaster of a year with no offensive lineman, just getting back his center in this past game. I definitely don't see him going back to the Bucs if he is decide to return. I definitely could see him going to. I know the talks were him and Sean Payton over this past offseason to go to the Dolphins and Tom playing and then potentially being a part of ownership. But I really kind of see him almost going where Sean Payton goes. And I think that is if that all depends on if the Saints lower their asking price, because right now they're asking for a haul of picks for Sean Payton, which I understand you have a Hall of Fame coach. He just up and left you. You're a little bit bitter. Do you want to get something in return? Completely understand. I kind of see him going there or to a team that's already built for success, which who knows? He could potentially go to his hometown team, the Niners, as it's seemingly to be a plug and play. I don't think that'd be smart for them to do that. But he really can go wherever there's not a surefire quarterback at this point. Where that is, don't know. So I want to give an answer. I'll give an answer. I think he retires. but I'm not gonna hold my breath on that. Let's just put it that way.
That's fair.
There's more. This one is more of a college football point, but it had a lot to do with the NFL, and it's because Jim Harbaugh every offseason since he's been with Michigan has flirted with the NFL about potentially returning again. He was being interviewed by the Broncos. He has again 2 years in a row been interviewed by an NFL team, and now has decided to go back to Michigan. Which shout out to our buddy Jeff, a huge Michigan fan, said I don't see why he wouldn't go back there. He's got most of his starters coming back, so they have another chance of giving it a go for the national championship. I'm just genuinely sick and tired of the back and forth. I just wish he would choose one or the other and just stay there. You finally built something in Michigan, but I did like Jim Harbaugh in the NFL. So whichever one you choose, fine, but just stop having this back and forth every off season. What are your thoughts on this of him flirting with the league again?
It doesn't bother me one bit. I mean, he deserves to have the conversations. He's obviously a good coach. He's done really good things with Michigan. that needs to go. It doesn't need to be said, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think the conversations. I think maybe it's just the media blowing up those conversations to the point of, oh, he's talking to so and so again, or he's talking to this team or that team. But I mean, I think those conversations happen across the board with a lot of coaches. And I think this one is just because it's just keeps happening over and over again. It's more for comedic sense, but he deserves to have those conversations. And I think he's making the right choice heading back to Michigan. They built an outstanding program, and they're doing well right now. So why abort that train?
Exactly. That's my exact sentiment. I know he's a great coach. I just don't like all the back and forth way, but he does, to your point, have the ability to kind of juggle this choice at this point in time. He's earned the right to interview with the NFL, and he's also earned the right to stay at Michigan as well too, even though they've lost 2 years in a row in the playoffs, but prior to him that team wasn't even making it to the playoffs, right? So it's really his choice, and I do support him because I actually really do like Jim Harbaugh. A guy that I genuinely like because of what he brought to my Eagles was Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator. He has just been signed by the Browns to be their defensive coordinator. The Browns have had some, and they do still have some really, really good players on defense, but I think they just need somebody that's really going to do there. I'm just going to tell the Browns players right now, just get prepared to blitz because he's going to send the whole house like half the game. Just watching him for all the years using Philly, 100% that's what he did. Just really wanted to put that out there and put that on people's radar. We really don't have to go too much into that because I really want to talk about Lamar Jackson. So the Ravens lost to the Bengals this past weekend, 17-24. With no Lamar Jackson, Huntley was the quarterback, did a pretty solid job, could have potentially still won the game with Huntley back there. But as plenty of Lamar's teammates have said after the game, we would have won this game if Lamar was there. And I wholeheartedly believe that they could have won that game, but he wasn't there. Lamar has in the past week has come out leading up to the game, tweeted about his actual injury, the PCL sprain, why he would love to be there, but he's not going to give it a go unless he's 100%. And he shouldn't, as I've said on numerous occasions on this podcast, Lamar, until you get your coin and it's secured, don't do anything, period. If you don't have to, don't. They don't want to pay you, don't get on the field. But Lamar tweeted after the game this: when you have something good, you don't play with it. You don't take chances losing it. You don't neglect it. When you have something good, you pour into it. You appreciate it, because when you take care of something good, that good thing takes care of you too. So read into that any way you'd like to read into that. So I'll give the floor to you, Harrison, because I want to hear what you think after hearing this tweet and kind of this whole saga that has ran its whole course throughout the whole season. And then I'll jump in and give my 2 cents after.
Sure. So, I mean, first off, I don't think it's like a, I can play if I have money situation. I think he's actually injured. And his teammates are saying that inside the locker room. So it's not like
Mhm.
a just brace it up and play. Like he's actually hurt. So I don't understand the conversation around that or calling into question his like ability to be there for the team or be a warrior for them or get out in the field with his teammates. I don't think that's coming into play at all inside that locker room, at least with his teammates.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of nonsense, and the narrative that's been driven on that one is just weird to me. Secondly, yeah, I think the Ravens are playing games. Like there's some stories in the media coming out now that obviously are being pushed by the team
Mhm.
or people inside the organization that are shedding Lamar in a poor light. And hopefully that's not the case, but that's the way it looks from the outside. So he deserves to be paid. He's a great quarterback.
Yep.
They need to stop messing around with that. Unless they don't think he's the guy. If they don't think he's the guy, then they need to move on. But obviously, he's an MVP quarterback. He's putting up numbers. I don't know what else better you can get from there. You can move on to a different type of quarterback if you think that's what you want to move on to. But I think that would be a mistake. So obviously, Lamar's going to have plenty of suitors if it does go that way, and he deservedly so.
I could not agree with you more. This has been a sad situation because we've watched Lamar come from winning a Heisman
Yeah.
in college, them saying that he couldn't translate to the NFL, that he's more of a running back, wide receiver. He should convert to that because he's not a true quarterback, to going out and winning the MVP his second season, to them saying that he can't pass in the pocket, to him being able to do that and almost winning MVP last year, uh, even though Aaron Rodgers won it. So he's been in the conversation damn near every year he's been in the league thus far. They don't have enough talent around him. And when they do have talent around him, the talent leaves because they don't pay the talent either. Also remembering he was not drafted by this current front office. He's not technically their guy, but they also don't want to be the guys that are looking at it and say, hey, we let Lamar Jackson walk for peanuts, right? Looking at this, all I've ever heard from his teammates and anybody that's been around Lamar is how much of a stand-up guy he is, how much he fights for his team. And I think you can genuinely see that in John Harbaugh's face when he was asked questions. He was kind of frustrated with it. But this type of tactic that's being done by the front office is what gets good coaches fired, because you don't keep these certain players around here and pay them what they need to do, and then they leave, and then that team does nothing and they start to lose. They built this team for Lamar, and now we're playing this back and forth whole mumbo jumbo. I'm not with it, bro. Honestly, I just want Lamar to get his coin, and I don't care where it is. If it's not with the Ravens, they're gonna try to franchise tag him. He doesn't have to sign it whatsoever. So I hope he gets his money from them, and if not, he'll get it from somebody in the league, because there's definitely teams, one being your team, that 100% would be like, hey, listen, send him over here. We'll take him. You can take whatever picks you're saying you want, and we'll take this guy because he deserves that money that Deshaun Watson got. Not in trouble, has done more in the league than Deshaun at this point in time. I don't see why he doesn't get his coin. He should. Plain and simple.
Agree. Pay that man. Put some respect on his name.
It's so crazy how he's been so disrespected since coming into the league. It's
Every year, even when
every single year.
Like even when he won an MVP, still disrespected. Like I
Yep.
just don't understand it.
Yep.
I do understand it, but
Well, I mean, we definitely understand it. We've talked about it on here plenty of times. There's a difference between black quarterbacks and white quarterbacks, and mobile quarterbacks and pocket passing quarterbacks, and it's always the same rhetoric every single time, and it has not changed, which is pretty disgusting. But they're
in the same playbook over and over.
It really, really is. And it just shows your true colors. And then you want to say things anonymously and not even put your name attached to it, which says a whole lot more about you and your criticism. Once you're anonymous, it goes in one ear and out the other for me. But let's move forward to the Chargers, who also lost this weekend, which was absolutely wild. That the Chargers were up at halftime by 27. Up at halftime by 27 points. The Jags had absolutely no points on the board. I think Trevor Lawrence ended up throwing 6 picks in the first half, if I remember correctly. And here we are. The Jags end up winning the game 31-30. Somebody had to go, and they fired their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. Now, I know somebody had to go, but that's not the person that I thought should have went. And the person that I thought should have went is Brandon Staley, because some of the questionable things that he has done, i.e. last week playing Mike Williams and having him getting injured in a game that they already receded, cracking 2 ribs, was out 2 weeks. So if they advance, they still wouldn't have him for the divisional round. You do that. There's been questionable calls all last year and then this year as well. And he is not the one that's fired. So I don't know if you follow Brandon Staley like that, Harrison, or even care to even know what's going on with him. But do you think he's the one that should have been fired over Joe Lombardi?
I mean, like you said, somebody has to go. That's kind of, it's like a irredeemable loss. Like there's really, like that sticks with the team, with the players for a long time. But I mean, the Chargers have had plenty of those losses. It's basically just the franchise's MO, which is pretty sad. I mean, they have talented players.
They do.
And blowing a 27-point lead is in a playoff game is just, it's nothing but sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was hard. It was hard to like, no, it wasn't hard to watch. It was great to watch, but it was just, yeah, someone's got to go. Head's got to roll. Who it was doesn't really matter.
It's just crazy to me that a buddy of mine that is a diehard Chargers fan had a conversation with me, and he said, I just really don't understand.
Chargers fans out there.
There are. That it shocked me too. But it's just they keep wasting a lot of talent that they've had there. I mean, they had Drew Brees at one time with LaDainian Tomlinson. Then they had Phillip Rivers come in after Drew Brees left with LaDainian Tomlinson, and they still didn't win. They had all that going on back there. They have a great defense now. They have a great young quarterback in Herbert. They have 2 phenomenal wide receivers. They have Joey Bosa. Is it Joey Bosa? Yeah. And Khalil Mack on the defensive side. They are building things and still not getting over the hump. So it's starting to feel like it's more organizationally disastrous than it is anything else, because the players are out there doing what they're supposed to be doing, but you can't be up 27 and end up losing after that. Like, you literally only put up 3 points after that. 3 points after the half. So it's not great at all. It's just not great at all. And it sucks to see that happen. And of course, I wanted to pick the Jags last week, and talking to that individual, I kind of swayed my thing, and this is why I never do that, and I'm never doing it again. So just mark my word. If I don't care if any of you hit me up and are friends and like, why didn't you pick? Because I didn't pick your team. Okay, damn it. It's just
Jags are hot, man. Last time I was on, I said they got a good schedule coming in. Trevor Lawrence was looking to turn up, and look at him now.
He's coming into his own.
Not right often. Today I am.
He's coming into his own for sure. And I really, 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 really am getting like Andrew Luck type vibes. And that's in a good way. That's not what happened in the latter half of his career. But he was the next big thing since him. And I think he's starting to live up to it, because he's starting to get the feel of the game outside, but he's got to get rid of those picks. Like this, that's what he's got to work on in the offseason, which I think he will. I think he'll be fine.
I don't think he's you're not saying he's anywhere near as talented as Andrew Luck.
Yeah, no.
Yes, he definitely got the same type of hype, but he is a gamer. Like, I do think he's got a winner's mentality, and he's not going to quit, obviously. So and he's shown that. So I like him. I like him.
I do as well. And I mean, they also have a man in the room. Sam and I have talked about this plenty of times by getting Doug P instead of that little child that formerly coached Ohio State and the Gators. I won't say his name because I refuse to say his name. He's probably in a bar somewhere picking up minors. Anyway, so we're going to go to what the scores were. I've already touched on a couple of them, but the Seahawks, Harrison's former team, one of his former teams, because Russell
I love
Wilson
the
was
league.
there. Excuse me?
I love the league.
Wow.
Just not the Chargers.
Such a PC response. The Seahawks lost 23-41 to the Niners. Brock Purdy is still balling out over there for the Niners, which is absolutely wild. Mr. Irrelevant is Mr. Relevant. And he is been on fire since he stepped into that spot. I do feel bad for Geno. Geno is he's probably going to win probably comeback player of the year, even though it should be my boy Brandon Graham, and that's not even being biased. Just check his stats. But Geno wants to stay with the Seahawks. He said he wants to end his career there. That it's going to be really interesting to see what the Seahawks do, because they're 100% in the market for a quarterback, and I don't think they're going to just settle with Geno Smith. But I'd love to see Geno go back. Would you love him to stay there or just go?
I don't think they're winning anything in that division in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought they were tearing it down. So this is obviously a monumental,
True.
monumental season for them to even really make the playoffs. Like going in, they were picked to finish kind of dead last in their division, not be very good. And Geno balled out, played well, obviously, but we're seeing like with Russell Wilson going to the Broncos and how much he threw for the Seahawks, like it could be a system. It could be Pete Carroll. Like, why are we not throwing more respect to Pete Carroll for even bringing that team who just not very good to that wild card appearance? So, I mean, I like Geno. I think it's probably a plug and play situation, but they're not a Super Bowl contender anytime soon. So I don't know what direction that franchise goes. I really, really couldn't tell you.
That's one of the biggest mysteries, and it's extremely important that we highlight the part of they weren't supposed to go anywhere this year. No, this was supposed to be a rebuild, and what Geno had done in that system, I do agree with you 100%. That Pete Carroll needs to have some respect put on his name, because he was damn near dragged through the mud when Russ was there his last season. And I don't know if it's the coaching, blah, blah, blah. Russ left and they made it to the playoffs and they look pretty fine. And I think it's just got to be his system that everybody buys to it.
Still missed him to USC.
I know.
Also, shout out to the best kicker in the NFL, Marisol Jason Myers.
There you go. there you
Check
go.
Check the stats.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm not arguing.
That should have paid that man.
So, well, they definitely should have. He also was with the Jags too, and they should have paid him too. So, whatever. We already talked about the Chargers and their.
Oh, you don't want to talk about the Niners? Because I do.
Oh, yeah. We can go ahead. Go ahead and talk about the Niners.
What a fantastic team! Like, we were talking about them, like obviously early on, like could Trey Lance or could Jimmy kind of pick up the slack, because the defense was there, the weapons on the outside, the running game, it was all there. And now they seem to have that quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant. Like how do you not get like Tom Brady vibes with this? Like came from nowhere, is absolutely balling out, like not like managing the game. Like he's scrambling around the pocket, he's throwing dimes, like he looks like he has the arm strength. Like, how is this not the Super Bowl pick right now at this exact moment? And yes, I know the Eagles are sitting right there, but looking at the 49ers and how they've closed out the season and how they're playing right now, I don't see, they're my pick. And that's just like, that's definitely just a reaction to the moment, but like they look so legit.
That you'll see, and I'll explain more with my pick when it comes to this week, why I think that may be altered, because he has been balling out. And in this game, he was 60% on his completions, threw for 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and had a QB rating of 131.5. The
Sounds
week before
bad.
had a QBR of 141.3. So yeah, he's been doing him. He's legit been doing him since he's come in. It's just that I don't. Yes, do they look good? I think it's a plug and play situation there? Absolutely. But I don't know how much longer he can hold up. I'm not talking about the team around him. That's the only part that I'm curious about. But if he can just hold up enough and do that, he doesn't even need to put 3 touchdowns on with that defense the way they're playing. If he can put 2 touchdowns on the board or just move in and manage it and not turn the ball over, they could get to wherever they need to get to. Period. So it's possible to see them go anywhere.
It's
Honestly.
so funny that they played the Seahawks, and this is just exactly the Seahawks model. Like that's how they won the Super Bowl with Russ. Like Russ was not Russ yet.
Yep.
And if he can just not turn the ball over, I don't see how they lose.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. I'm intrigued to see. I just want the matchup to be them and the Eagles in the conference championship. I just truly want it because of it. That would be phenomenal. But we'll see. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed on that one. My dad's Dolphins lost. And sorry, Dad. Not sorry. To the Bills. 31-34. No Tua.
No Tua. Fought valiantly. They were a good team. Another team that has, a lot of weapons. They had a good regular season. Just the Tua thing they could quite never overcome. Their coach seems really legit. I really like him. I really like his process and all the social media clips they put out about him. He looks like a cool guy to play for. But the Tua situation just kind of loomed large. And the Bills are the Bills. I like the Bills a lot, obviously.
Yeah, McDaniels took over. He took over actual offensive playing calling, which is what he was known for before coming there. While he was vaping on the sideline during the game, which is absolutely hilarious. I don't know why he didn't think that he was going to get caught. Like there's several cameras, and there's definitely one dedicated to you as a coach.
There's one camera on him at all times.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know, like what you thought, but you going like this and trying to cover your mouth, like we didn't know that it's vape and seeing smoke come out after, bro. You gotta be better.
He's a man of the people.
He's hilarious though. But no, I think the Tua loss was huge. That impacted them a lot because if Tua was there, I think that would have been they 100% could have really won that game. And they were still in the game with Skylar Thompson, who didn't do too bad. But I also think he didn't do too bad because the Bills haven't really been living up to that Super Bowl contender that we saw and thought they could be. I know they've had an emotional roller coaster in the past couple of weeks. They've been up and down with that, but I mean, even before that, they've lost games to the Jets in MetLife. They've lost close games to the Dolphins. If I remember correctly, earlier in the season, they lost the game to the Dolphins. The first half, right? No, they ended up winning both ones, right? No, they won. I don't remember which one. Anyway,
they've looked shaky. They've looked shaky for
they've looked shaky and plenty of times. And I mean, for those that are like, well, Josh Allen's got an interception problem. He's been that guy from college coming into the NFL, and that was one of his knocks, one of the only knocks that they actually had on him. So that's what you're going to get with Josh Allen, but you're also going to get a big arm that makes big plays, that can make all the throws, that can scramble when he needs to protect himself when he scrambles. But these type of plays, but the Bills need to be on their P's and Q's for this week because they are not playing a slouch at all. And that is going to be a very, very interesting game, and we'll get into that in a second for sure. Do you have anything else for the Bills before we move on?
No, they've definitely looked shaky. Obviously, they probably got some good karma on their side. I believe in karma a little bit. So yeah, for me, it depends on their matchup, who they see, and if they're home or not. And that'll kind of determine, if I think they kind of move on or just flutter out. But it would be a wasted year for them. They looked like gangbusters to be in the season.
They did.
I mean, any year, with the core they have and what they have going on is probably a wasted year at this point if it's not a Super Bowl because they look so on track to get one.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl or bust. What they build in Buffalo, also what they've built in the Niners out in San Fran. These are some teams that have taken time, that were at the bottom of the barrel for a little bit, but have been able to build up a solid roster, and they both have that. So it's essentially at this point is Super Bowl or bust for either of those teams. The game that I said and the team that I said was going to win, because it was showtime for the Vikings to go. The Giants ended up pulling out the win. I don't know why I put this the wrong way, but the Vikings were 31, Giants 34. Yeah, I knew you knew. But
We have enough
Saquon,
Giant fan friends.
yeah, we had plenty. Unfortunately, I actually saw one in a particular video cussing out the Eagles at Minnesota. So I will be sure to make sure I have a conversation with that lovely gentleman, and I will share that video with you as well because you golf with his brother. Anyway, huh?
Keep the receipts.
Yeah, I got the receipts. I always keep them. But the Giants, I'm still going to call him Danny Ducks until he proves more. This season has been a solid season for Daniel Jones. And that game has been probably the best game that I've ever seen Daniel Jones have, period. With Saquon back there running like nobody can stop him. Pretty much when he's running full steam ahead, nobody can stop him. But seeing the likes of Hodgkinson step up, what the Giants are doing, what Brian Daboll has done since coming there is absolutely wild. And all the true Giants fans that I talk to about their season is they would obviously love to see their team win, but at this point in time, they've already won because I don't think most people outside of Damian George decided to pick the Giants going further in this situation, which is still wild to me. But as I said last week on this podcast, the Vikings play a second half game every game that they played and play comeback. That does not work in the playoffs. This was exactly what I meant. You can't play second half football like this in the playoffs against a team that is also a good team there. And the Vikings got exposed. And it's the one person that we always focus back on, Kirk Cousins. It always goes back to Kirk Cousins. I think Justin Jefferson got them out of a lot this year. But when it comes to crunch time, prime time, Kurt, the numbers are there, doesn't really live up to it. And I'm not putting this all on him because the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed either. So very interesting game. It was a really, really good game. What were your thoughts on this game?
Just to set the record straight, Dame said he's picking the Giants just to be contradictory to what we were all picking. Not because he believed in them, but just because he wanted to be contradictory for the podcast.
He also said they were going to win the division. He also said they were going to win the division. That was that. So yeah.
Yeah, man, Giants, they just continue to do it. I think they got a favorable matchup with the Vikings. I'm not really sold on them other than Justin Jefferson. Obviously, Kirk Cousins he's fine. He's fine, but he's not, a Super Bowl winning, AFC championship winning quarterback in my mind. And that kind of just played out not how we thought it would. I knew it would be a good game. I thought it would kind of be, a coin flip, and that it would be tight to the end, and it was. So, hats off to the Giants. Obviously their fans deserve, to kind of gloat a little bit. No one picked them. No one except Dame George, just to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming from what they came from last year and didn't make many changes to the roster. Obviously the coaching staff has done a hell of a job. Players have improved and stepped up, and hats off to them.
Yeah, this is I'm really intrigued to see what the Vikings do next year, but I'm really intrigued to see this matchup next week for the Giants. As we mentioned earlier, the Ravens lost to the Bengals 17-24. Joe Burrow, as Dean also named this man Thorough Burrow. Absolutely can't even hate on that one because he is absolutely thorough.
Yeah,
he is a problem. He is an absolute problem. And the receiving core that they put around this young man is also a problem. Um, and they look better than they did last year. There was a couple fumbles throughout that game, and I don't mean literal fumbles, but throughout that game that just I could not believe that happened. The game was really close throughout. I know the score says 24-17. But if it wasn't for punching the ball when Huntley dove, which I don't know why he dove that far out, and getting that, running it all the way back, this game could have been way closer because if they scored at that point in time, this could have been a whole different game. But it didn't happen, and the Bengals won. But now the Bengals get to go and play the Bills. And I'm so happy for this divisional round that we're about to get into on a second. But I, again, really, really curious to see what the Ravens are going to do this offseason because I'm 100% sure the top storyline is going to be what is going on with Lamar Jackson. So don't need to go all the way back into that again as we just spoke about it, but that's really what I'm intrigued by. What were your thoughts after watching this game?
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals were just kind of like sneakily getting around and kind of moving along. Obviously, they were, in the Super Bowl last year, and people are quick to forget what just happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. I think their schedule's been super weak heading in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a huge test right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they beat, the Ravens twice, which I don't think they're a very good team without Lamar. The Bills game obviously canceled. They beat the Pats, beat the Bucks, who I'm not really, sold on, beat the Browns, and they beat the Chiefs by 3 before that. So their stretch has not really done it for me. And that's probably why they're kind of moving along so sneakily, because they're wins that aren't just like blasted out there or like, oh, that's a signature win. So, I'm excited to see how they stack up against the Bills on the road.
This is going to be this is going to be so interesting. So let's just jump right into this so we can give you our picks and our thoughts on the games that are coming up this weekend. I don't know if you've had plans or not, but I would absolutely say this is the weekend that you should stick in the house and make whatever excuse that you should possibly make, because these 4 games are going to probably have a ton of fireworks in them. And we'll start with Saturday's first game at 4:30 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time on NBC. It's the Jags at Chiefs. Both Harrison and I have decided to choose the Chiefs in this one. I just, the reasoning behind that one is it's Patrick Mahomes. I immediately go to Patrick Mahomes in my mind, and just like
you turn it over 4 times in the first half against the Chiefs, like
it's over. Yeah, it's over. They're not going to give it back to you. There's that. The Chiefs defense has played a lot better than it has in the past 2 seasons. The Mahomes Kelsey connection is been on steroids this year. It's proved my point of that the number one receiver on that team was never Tyreek Hill. It was always Travis Kelce, as he is the best tight end in the league. So I mean, the Jags are going to be in it for probably 3 quarters, depending on if they don't turn the ball over. But then I just see the Chiefs pulling away. They're just too much for me.
I see the Chiefs pulling away early. I don't think this is much of a game.
Fair. We will double back on this one because I want to see what happens, because I could see that happening and getting out of hand. The game at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. Giants at my Eagles. Both Harrison and I chose the Eagles. I chose my Eagles because it's my Eagles. Number one.
How worried are you?
I'm always worried every single game they played. So it doesn't ever get higher. The only time
it's scale to 1 to 10, where are we at?
Maybe like 5. I mean, I'm always at like 5. I'm even. I'm not too high, too low with them. But I also feel better that they're getting a lot of their players back healthy, which was a big thing. That getting that first round bye, the first week bye, was huge for them to allow a lot of key players to recover and practice this week. That was a huge thing. So I think that helps out. But the only thing that scares me is like the history of seeing a divisional team and that team beating you twice in the regular season, and what normally happens in the playoffs, or what has happened in the playoffs, is that team has your number. But I'm not too worried, Harrison. It should be a good game. Should be a good game.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a good game. You got a divisional opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Giants are obviously feeling themselves. Eagles can't start slow. Just
Nope.
can't.
Nope.
Just can't do it. But I'm going to go with the Eagles, but I'm not sure.
Fair. That's fair.
I'm not sure.
What is making you unsure at this time?
I think just the rust a little bit from some of the guys coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously missing Hurts for a little bit. It's just thrown off they were rolling. They were, machine like, and they had everything going. Schedule was obviously a bit easy. I said this when we predicted it. I said the Eagles schedule is pretty easy. I still think they're a really good team, but their schedule has been a bit easy. So I just want to see them. They're just going to get tested. Obviously, this is obviously a huge test against a team that's really, really has some good momentum. A divisional opponent, like the biggest game of the year, obviously to this point for them. Duh. So I'm just concerned. I think they're the better team, but I'm concerned they could, crumble a little bit under the pressure.
That is fair. That's why I'm so even keel. Is I'm not getting too high, too low, because this can really go anywhere. And it all it takes is playoffs is one team getting hot, and that's all you need is getting hot at the right time. I've witnessed it with the Eagles in 2017 with Nick Foles. They got hot and they just couldn't be stopped. So it's anybody's game. I kind of see that clear.
They weren't necessarily the better team that year, but they were hot.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. And the only game I think this week that I see just being a blowout is the Chiefs Jags game. Like that's the only one that I see taking off. This next game comes on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. The Bengals at the Bills. Harrison has the Bills. I have the Bengals. Harrison, why do you have the Bills?
Like the Bills at home, I think they're the better team. Like I said before, I just don't think the Bengals have been truly tested in the schedule they've played lately. This will be a good one though. I think it'll come down to the wire. But I'm going to have the Bills coming out of it.
This is, out of all four of the games here, I'd easily have to say this is my hardest pick because they both haven't played the greatest football with the caliber of players that they have on their team. And I don't really know what we're going to get. Are we going to get a defensive game because both teams have a defense that can play well outside of Eli Apple getting burnt all the time? But I still don't know how he's still in the league. Anyway, just with Joe Burrow having now been to the Super Bowl last year and now having that experience, and he just seems so cool, calm, and collective, and he doesn't really turn the ball over like that. Whereas on the other side, Josh Allen hasn't been to the Super Bowl yet. Can sling the ball, has one of the best arms in the league, if not the best, and has had a huge interception problem this year too. But the reason why I go back and forth is you mentioned something earlier that has been on my mind since that huge injury happened to Damar Hamlin is they have some type of energy behind them right now. And that's really, again, to my point just a second ago, all you really need is something that is fueling you and pushing you to the promised land. So it's been a toss-up for me, but I'm just going off of I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. I don't like betting against him. I really just don't. I don't. I feel like he's got that Tom Brady mentality, and if you go against me, like I'm coming at your neck. That's him.
Yeah, I don't know. The Bills, they, like you said, they got the good momentum, or they're pulling for each other. There's something to be said for that. And the city too, it's just a different kind of vibe coming out of Buffalo and Buffalo fans and the way that team has been carrying themselves. And I just really want to see Bills Chiefs again. That's one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
So that I want to see that again in the AFC Championship as much as I want to see Eagles 49ers. Like I want that weekend. So that's why I'm picking the Bills.
Fair. I think that's valid. You guys stay warm up there. Enjoy your garbage plates and all that. Don't hurt yourself jumping through tables and pouring ketchup and mustard all over yourselves. Later that evening, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on Fox, Cowboys at the Niners, a classic game in NFL history, as they have a historic rivalry, which is not really rivalry because they don't see each other that much. But in the 90s, it was these guys always dueling against each other in the playoffs at some point in time to try to get to the Super Bowl. Harrison has the Niners, and I have the Cowboys. I'm just going to go first. I mentioned earlier the whole Brock Purdy situation. Now, I feel Brock Purdy hasn't slipped up yet, and I do feel he's due because of his rookie stature. He could just be cold-blooded. He could just be that guy, and I'm underestimating him, and I'm not putting respect on his name. And if that is the case, and they win this game, and it's a outstanding win on his behalf, I will get right back on this podcast and apologize. I just know how that Cowboys defense can play and what they can do. Now, I know they just beat the Buccaneers, and as I started at the top of the show, they're the Bucs. It's not hard to really look good against the Bucs this year. But I've watched what the Cowboys have done this year, and when they actually are firing on all cylinders, it's tough. But the Niners have been firing on all cylinders for quite some time now. I just think with Dak, if he doesn't turn the ball over, I think the Cowboys could win this, but I think this game really comes down to a field goal, Harrison. I really do. And if it does come down to a field goal, history tells me that the Niners are going to win this game. But I don't know. I feel like the Cowboys might pull this game out. I don't know why. I don't know why.
You're like not you're scared to put like respect on Purdy's name, which is fine, but like you're putting a lot of respect on Dak Prescott's name. And he hasn't shown like against the 49ers defense as well. Like I think that
yeah,
is better than the Cowboys defense.
it is. It is. You're right. You're right.
But I for me, this one was an easy pick for me. I can't pick the Cowboys in any type of big game. I can't do it. And that's another kind of Chargers self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing because I haven't seen them do it in so long. And I really like how the 49ers look right now. I'm probably prisoner of the moment, but I'm still rolling with it. Again, the Cowboys slate closing the year, not impressive. It's just not impressive to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat the Texans, they beat the Colts, they lost to the Jags, who are hot. Obviously, that started the Jags run. Beat the Eagles, was impressive, but without Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Titans, and then lost to the Commanders. So and then beat the Bucs. I just don't see their resume. I don't like what I'm seeing out of them. I'm slandering the Cowboys a lot, so they'll probably win. But I think the 49ers are going to win this game.
I told Harrison before we started this that it's probably a reverse psychology thing for me here with the Cowboys because I do truly want to see them lose. But I would honestly. This is where I'm torn, Harrison, as an Eagles fan.
They haven't beaten anyone.
Well, no, they really haven't. And when they beat the Eagles, they barely beat the Eagles with Gardner Minshew as the quarterback. So there's that. But my thing is, I'm okay with the Eagles playing either one of these teams if they're able to get past the Giants. Here's why. If they play the Cowboys, it's obviously the Eagles Cowboys. And then we can finally shut this argument up for a while on either side, right? You can always have bragging rights. Like, remember that time we beat you to go to the Super Bowl, right? And it's that bragging rights. It's kind of like when UNC beat Duke in the NCAA tournament. Harrison, you're a Duke fan, right? I think I'm a Tar Heel fan. Anyway, but on the other end, you have the Niners, and that's been the team that every analyst across the board is saying this is the only team that we can see stopping the Eagles. So either one of those matchups, I would absolutely love to see. So I hope the Eagles just hold up their end of the bargain, and whoever they face here is going to be must-see TV. So I guess it's just time to get the popcorn out and see what's going to happen from this point. hopefully you're free and you're watching these games with me, but we'll see. Let's get to the NBA. Don't have much to talk about the NBA because it hasn't really been popping like that. The things are starting to bubble up as we're getting closer to All-Star break. When's the trade deadline? That's coming soon too.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you
Mm-hmm.
go. So hearing rumors of the Raptors essentially blowing up their team, a couple pieces moving around. But what has stayed stationary is some of the big superstars. One being from Harrison's favorite football basketball team in college, from Duke, Jason Tatum, out here absolutely balling. He's one of my favorite players. It's hard not to like Jason Tatum. I hate Boston sports, but I love me some Jason Tatum. I don't care what anybody says. Seeing the relationship him and his son Deuce have, and him having the relationship with other players, like it's hard not to love that. But he dropped 51 on the Hornets. Had 9 rebounds in it, 5 assists. He was 15 for 23 for field goal, 7 for 12 3-point, and 14 from 14 from the free throw line. He has been an absolute menace and is why they still sit on top of the Eastern Conference at this point in time. I don't really see people moving them off that spot, even with Giannis. I mean, I don't see it. It's just they're still winning, and they don't even have Jaylen Brown right now, if I remember correctly, right? So he's still injured, and they're still doing this. So when Jaylen Brown comes back, they were cruising when he was there and not injured. So it's hard to see any team really coming out of the East past them, especially now that they've had this experience of going to the finals. I think that's fueled these boys even more. You would have thought with the change of head coach, they might have a slow start out the gate. They absolutely did the exact opposite of that, and they continued to ball out from there. What do you think of Tatum's performance? Where he places this year, I guess, in the MVP voting, and where you see the Celtics ending?
All right, I'll start first. So his performance, last place Hornets. I'm cool with it. I think he's an absolute superstar. He should do that stuff. But it's part of the reason the NBA's not. It's been a little numb this year because of there's so many performances like this every single night, namely by Luka and Jokic and Giannis and Tatum. It's just every night is like a different one, which is incredible, but also a little numbing at the same time. It's like, all right, cool, like another 50-point triple double, or it's just the league's in a great place if you're
really is
entertainment every single night, and the parity amongst the teams in the East and the West. So, but I do see the Celtics kind of continuing to cruise. Like they're a really, really solid team. They've been that. They added Malcolm Brogdon. Like they're just really, really, really good. And we'll see what kind of matchups they get in the playoffs, but it would not shock me to see them make it to the championship again and even win it this time, because that's how good that team is. Is there a third question? I don't remember.
MVP.
Still Luka for me. Just the numbers he's putting up.
Ridiculous.
Kind of wilding out is crazy to me. And we'll see. We've still got a long way to go, and that's another thing with the NBA season. It's so long. They really do need to figure out a way to kind of
shorten
it up, or spice things up with maybe like a mid-season cup tournament or something that European soccer model does, and things of that nature. It's just way too long, and it's hard to kind of get those fans in to get excited about a 51-point game against the Hornets. It's just it's not going to happen. So there has to be a way to elevate these games and elevate these athletes to be on a national stage. They are already on a national stage, but a relevant stage more often to compete with the NFL playoffs. I mean, they probably never will, but it's this time of year where it's like NFL is king and NBA is just like, all right, we're just chilling until All-Star game, and then after that we got the trade deadline, and then we're in the playoffs. So there has to be a way to figure out this stretch between Christmas and NFL playoffs where it's just not like, oh look, another 50-point game by so and so.
I forgot the numbers, but NFL blew the NBA out of the water when it came to the Christmas games. Like there's, as you said, NFL is king. There's no way they're competing with that. But I've loved the idea. They've been flirting with this for a couple of years. It's been talked about amongst many circles about the mid-season tournament. I think that would be absolutely nuts. Like Harrison, I would love that. I would pay money to go there and watch that and see these guys ball out for a midseason thing because that's extra incentive. It allows people to do certain things. So I love that. But to your point, I think it even happens to us here on this podcast that I want to talk more and more about basketball, but it's just kind of like, right now. Like to me, like it's just like everything that's going crazy right now is the NFL. Right. And if I talk to you about basketball, I can talk to you about a lot of prospects coming up because I know we share things amongst ourselves, but people that I've played basketball with and Harrison as well, like I know I share things with them and we're talking about the younger kids that are coming up in college basketball and so on and so forth. But the NBA is kind of just like right now. So this is all we really have to go off of. But I hope I can talk more about it soon, which I'm sure I will be able to. But
the playoffs will be incredible. I mean,
yes.
It is like the product itself is amazing. Like all these
agreed
is going crazy. Like there's so much talent in the league right now. It's just there's no drama to it because none of these games really mean anything because of how much parity there is. Like it doesn't really matter where they shake out 1 through 10 because
agreed.
they're all good. So any of them can beat anyone, which is a great problem to have come playoff time. But during the year, it's like, okay, cool.
yeah. It's like, all right, great. Next. Since this man's 38th birthday, he's absolutely been playing out of his mind. Yes, I'm talking about Harrison's favorite player of all time. It is Mr. LeBron James, the kid from Akron, out here just dropped another amazing stat line. Put 48 up against the Rockets. Yes, the Rockets aren't a great team, but they have a lot of really good young talent. To Harrison's point,
Hornets, LeBron against the Rockets.
I can't. It's true. I can't go against this. This is truth, and it's he had 8 rebounds, 9 assists, so he almost had a triple double while doing this, and he shot 50% from 3-point line. He went 5 for 10. It's just nuts that he's still doing this with Mr. Glass being down again, aka plain clothes, aka Anthony Davis being down again. But Anthony Davis was balling. It's just if Anthony Davis can stay healthy and these two can do and put this together, they are going to be a silent into the playoffs. Like I think right now, if the season ended, they wouldn't be in the playoffs.
They're but 1.5 game out of the play-in games.
I'm telling you, Anthony Davis comes in, they're making the playoffs, and I would not be surprised if they gave one of the top seeded teams a run for their money and advancing, because with those two alone, they can do a lot. Again, Bron just doing him. Again, it's against the Rockets, but I still don't want to take it for granted because we don't know how. We probably got like 4 years left of LeBron, maybe, if that, 3, I'd probably say.
I think, obviously he keeps saying he wants to play with Bronny. So you never know. Or he could retire after this year. It's kind of, I don't know, but he's done everything. I think once he passes Kareem, what else is left? I mean, I know people want to do the rings thing and all that, but he's done everything. He's done everything.
It's true.
Against the Rockets, yeah. I mean, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here. It's super, like, the guy's 38 years old. Like,
yeah.
If Jordan was putting up these numbers when he was on the Wizards, like, it'd be a national story every single night. And he's just doing it. It's just like, oh, LeBron did another triple double or another 40-point game. Like, he's carrying that team. That team is awful, horrendous. Like, it's a joke what they put on what they put on the court with him. It's embarrassing. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, he should be riding out his career with a top 5 team.
He should.
And he's playing at that level, which is so maddening for a big LeBron fan to see him saddled with whatever roster this was put together by Rob Pelinka. Like, I'm so mad about it. I'm so mad about it. It's such a waste.
Yeah, I know Bron is still upset for opening his mouth and saying, yeah, let's get Russ. I know they keep going at Russ, but the thing is,
bro, I'd ask for Russ. I'd ask for a trade back to the Cavs so fast. Like, that's so fast, bro.
Just put me back there. Just put me
back. Yeah, like,
there.
get me out of here. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. He won them one ring. He came to do something, and that's it.
They've obviously been holding the picks for some trade at the deadline. If they if they flame out with a trade at the deadline, someone's got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's got to go.
I heard them flirting with trying to get Kuzma back, and I just dropped my phone when I read it. I was just like, if you go and get Kuzma back and think that is the move that you need to make of one move, like you're out of your mind. Like leave Kuzma where he's at. Let him do him in Washington. They could try to get this guy, which would be a blockbuster move if they could absolutely do this. I highly doubt this will happen, but Trae Young looks like he's got a little trouble in paradise down there in Atlanta. And I've been hearing rumblings left and right and just keeping my ear to the streets about this one. But Trae Young was fined by the Hawks for using a private jet during the 2022 NBA playoffs. Yes, that was the playoffs last year. And you're probably wondering why I'm bringing this up is because this is just surface. So apparently after they lost, he chartered a private jet to fly back. Now, the reason why this is such a big deal right now is that Trae, as I said, has been disgruntled with the Hawks. And apparently he's been going back and forth with their GM, and their relationship has been deteriorating, which starting to seem like there is a trade option on the table for Trae Young, which I think is absolutely nuts, but it's possible. And we've seen people get traded for less, Harrison. So does Trae get moved?
No, I mean, I don't see that. I mean, he's just signed kind of an extension, or a new contract. He's getting paid 37, 40, 43. He's a max level player. I don't see them moving off him. But also Trae Young, like, you're not good enough for all this drama. Like, I love Trae Young, but they're ninth right now in the East, and they have a better team than being ninth. And I just need to see a little bit more from him before he starts getting, fined for taking his own plane and beefing with the GM and beefing with the coach. And, I don't like the path that he's kind of going on. So I'm going to need him to kind of turn that around.
Yeah, I don't. I think
like him a lot.
I do as well.
Yeah,
I just think that if they do make any moves, it won't be him. Like I don't want to see Trae leave, especially with the young core that they have. But they've already said that. What's his name? Collins, first name.
John.
Thank you.
They've been beefing for the whole time he's been there.
Yeah, and they have already allowed him to start looking for trades. So I did see that, which he can move. I think he can be I guess a good piece for a team that already has kind of everything else in place, right? He hasn't really lived up to the expectation that I thought he could live up to. But I don't think Trae moves anywhere. I think if anything, they would fire the GM or the Nate McMillan before anything. Before moving Trae. But to your point, Trae, I needed to see the Trae that was going off against the Knicks. That's the Trae I need to see. That playoff Trae. But I haven't really seen or felt like he's kind of been getting at it since then, if I'm being honest.
That's been my problem. Like, I really like watching him play. I think his ceiling is like second round. And it's just like being a small guard in the NBA like that. There's going to be teams that kind of figure out a way to stop you taking, 35 footers. So, I love watching him play. He's exciting, but I'm not sure if he's a winning basketball player.
That's fair. That's fair. I just, it's always funny to me. And I think people, as you said earlier about another thing, are prisoners of the moment, especially when it comes to sports. But I think when they saw him shooting those 35-foot 3-pointers, and the first thing people started saying is Steph Curry. And I was just like, wait. Hold up. Steph got rings. So Steph is the greatest shooter of all time. Let's not do that. Yeah, but I do, to your point, does not drive this into the ground here. But Trae, I hope to see them turn around. I don't know how I really feel about the Hawks in totality. Like, I just don't know how I feel about them, and they have a hard road to go up in the East. I mean, they're missing some big pieces here that could help them get to that point. I don't mean like injuries, but they need to fill this roster up a little bit more for them really to be contenders. And I think they need to. I feel like he plays more ISO ball than anything.
His just usage rate is just so high.
Yeah,
that's really I mean, and he's got the assist numbers, but they run everything through him. And then if he's shooting 33% this year, so that's just not good enough from three.
That sucks.
It's not good enough. If you want like Steph comparison, Steph shot 42% for his career. Like you're not even close.
That's why he's the greatest shooter of all time. Yeah. And with that being said, this has been episode 84 of the Chasing Points podcast. Harrison, I appreciate you for being on again. Love you, brother, for real. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
No. Happy playoff weekend.
Okay. Yeah. Fair. This has been another episode of the Chasing Points podcast. You can listen to us on all major DSPs. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us everywhere. We're also on the K104 website page, so go check that out as well. We thank y'all for listening. I would normally give you one of my things, little stupid things, but I'm too tired today. Love y'all.
Happy Wednesday.
Goodbye.